Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. So this is a fresh intro because I started this reading blog months and months and months ago, and originally I should tell you what it's about first probably. So this is going to be a reading some of my anticipated releases or reading some 2024 releases, whichever you want to call it. But when I started this, I think originally I was going to read A Tempest of Tea, The Warm Hands of Ghosts, and A Court of Wanderers. And then I kept moving around what I was going to read. I still didn't read those. I've been having a real problem with reading anticipated releases this year. Do I know why? No, I don't. I don't know why. But for some reason, I haven't been gravitating towards them at all. Hence why the first episode that I'm doing of reading anticipated releases is only coming out in September. I am hoping to do more before the end of the year. But you'll just have to stay tuned to find out if I actually manage to do it. But in this vlog, I will be reading 3 of the books that were on my 2024 anticipated releases list. And so those will be A Tempest of Tea by Hafsa Faisal, How to Become the Dark Lord and Die Trying by Django Wexler, and A Novel Love Story by Ashley Poston. So if you were intrigued about my thoughts on any of those books, if you want to know if they're worth it, stay tuned to find out. So, as I said, let's go back a couple months now. Hello, so it's officially time for update number 1. So I am a little short of 50% of the way through. I'm like 156 pages through, and I think it's like 330 pages. So nearly halfway. I'm liking it, but it's not very exciting or gripping or anything like that. It's pretty slow. I mean, as I said, I'm just about halfway through and no heisting has happened. Like literally only in like the last 50 pages have like all of the members of like the crew actually come together. So like it is quite a slow start, but like I'm not like disliking it. Like it doesn't mean that like I'm not gonna love this, and like I don't feel particularly connected to the characters. So like I'm kind of thinking a 3 stars, but like I think a 3 star is good. I've been a lot harsher with my ratings anyway this year. So like I feel like a lot of books that last year I've been like, oh, I'll just give it like a low 4 star, but I'll just squeak it in there. A lot of those books, I'm saying this year, it's a 3 star. It's well written. I think she's done a pretty good job of like creating an atmosphere, but I have the same problem with her other books as well. I'm just really not connecting with the story, and like I don't necessarily think that makes it bad. Like as I said, I think the writing is solid. I think the atmosphere is pretty well done. It's a completely different vibe from We Hunt the Flame, and the characters, like we really haven't gotten a lot of them. Like I would say we have kind of like 2 main characters who are like Arthi and Jin, but then there's like 3 other characters that we've literally only gotten introduced to within like the last 50 pages, and even within that first 100 pages I feel like we didn't actually get a very good feel for who Jin and Arthi are. And so it kind of just, and so as I said, so like I still hadn't really gotten attached to them, and now you're introducing more characters, like it's gonna make it even harder for me to like really get invested in them. And as I said, I'm halfway through and like no heisting has really happened yet. And I was gonna say that I don't necessarily think I like heist stories. Like I don't really read heist stories. And like that's actually like not true for me to say that I don't like heist stories, because I'm pretty sure the only 2 heist stories I've read, I give both of them 5 stars. So like that is literally false. Obviously I read 6 of Crows, and I also read The Last Magician by Lisa Maxwell, both of them 5 stars. And yeah, so like, but I will say Last Magician by Lisa Maxwell, I read that in maybe 2020, 2021, I can't remember. I gave it 5 stars. It was probably one of like the last YAs that I gave a 5 star to, if we're being honest. And like I was so pleasantly surprised. I did not expect to love it, but I did. That book, as well as 6 of Crows, compared to this, are so much bigger. I mean, I think 6 of Crows is above 500. Last Magician, I think, is also above the last 500. I will say, I have never finished the Last Magician series. I like DNF, the 3rd book, and I always keep saying, I'm gonna go back to it. I'm gonna go back to it. I have not gone back to it. But this is only 330 pages. So that's a little... And I think with those other two that I'm talking about, so Six of Course and The Last Magician, like, you got time to care about the characters. And like both of those books, I would say, have significant setup of the characters and all of that. And like that is also kind of what is happening in here. Like we're 150 pages in. We're like getting acquainted with our characters. We're starting to understand them, their group dynamic. We're starting to like build that bond between them. But we don't have as much time in this to actually then get the heist done as we do in the other two books that I've spoken about. So like that's kind of what I'm worried about. And I will say, I don't necessarily actually like the plot aspect of Six of Crows. Like the reason Six of Crows is a 5-star to me, and I don't think it would be a 5-star if I read it today for the first time, is because of the characters. I fell in love with those characters. I'd say I was like 17 when I read those books, and like I had never read anything like it. I love characters. I find it easy to give a book a 5-star, but I am definitely a bit more critical when it comes to plot and world building and all of that stuff than I was back then. And I do definitely have nitpicks, which I noticed when I reread them, which I reread them in like 2020, I would say, and I still gave them 5 stars, but it was definitely like a lower 5 stars because like my big issue with that is the heist part. Is I guess like the whole point of a heist is like you have this plan, and like along the way the plan is not going to go to plan. Like something is going to happen, something is going to go wrong, and you have to fix it. And in Six of Crows, it's never fixed. As in, like, something will go wrong, they'll fix it, and then Kaz will go, I knew that was going to happen all along, and I actually planned it for this way. And that got very annoying in that book. Whereas in, like, The Last Magician, you do see things go wrong, and you see them work as a team on the spot to fix things. And I'm worried that I'm gonna have the same problem with this because we don't have a lot of time for things to go wrong. But we will see. I'm not gonna, no point getting yourself worried when something hasn't happened yet. So we're gonna continue. I think I might try and finish this tonight. And as I said, I feel like it's gonna be a 3-star. It's not as exciting as a heist book should be, guys. So I have finished A Tempest of Tea by Hafsa Faisal, and I'm giving it 3 stars, which isn't surprising, but I don't know how to talk about her books. This probably won't be very long. I think I said most of what I wanted to in the first half. I will say I definitely enjoyed the second half more. It picked up. I don't really necessarily, like, it is and it isn't a heist story. Like, I would not say the heist is a big part of this. Like, technically, you can count it as a heist story, but I feel like it's more just like general criminal activity. But like there was like a twist, which I don't really think was a twist, but like I still enjoyed like how that played out. I'm trying obviously not to spoil any things, but like I think that really intrigued me, how that played out and how like that would change the dynamic of things. And I find it so difficult to talk about her books because I think I give like We Free the Stars 4 stars, but I gave We Hunt the Flame 3 stars. I gave this a 3-star. But there's something about reading her books that I just feel so nostalgic. And so I keep wanting to read more of her books, despite the fact I can't give them any higher because like I can't say that I like really liked this or I loved it. Like it was okay. It had its moments, but also for a lot of it I was bored, despite the fact it is quite short. And like I just wasn't particularly engaged. But like there's like this weird connection where like with books that I really love, like I will connect to them, like instantly have like this grip on my heart. And like I feel like I should feel that way with her books in a way that I don't feel that for anything else, in like this nostalgic sort of way. And I feel like it just confirms that I have grown out of YA because the way that these stories are written and told, and like as I said, the way I feel while reading them, it does give me like this like nostalgic sort of feeling that of like when I'm reading like all those YA series that I loved for the first time, but there's like this block that stops me from really loving them and getting really attached to the characters and the plot and the themes. Whereas like when I was a teenager, I would have. And like a lot of YA books, I'll read it and I'll be like, yeah, I like this, or I don't like this, or whatever. But I don't necessarily feel that like nostalgic connection. Whereas I do with her books, and so I keep kind of getting drawn back into them because there is something about them that I do really like and respect, but also like I'm not loving them. So should I give up? I don't know. I'll see. I'll see if I will read the sequel when it comes out. Anyway, as I said, like it's hard to explain because like how can you like feel nostalgic and like have like this weird soft spot in my heart for a book that like I did have like genuine issues with. Like it's difficult, my brain doesn't understand it, and I think that's why I have such a hard time talking about her books. But I did read it, I have finished it, it was a 3-star. It had its moments. So let's move on to the next one, I guess. 50% of the way into How to Become the Dark Lord and Die Trying by Django Wexler, and it's not going to be a 5-star, I know that, but I am liking it. It's weird because I like some aspects of it more than I like Ashes of the Sun, that series. Burning Blade and Silver Eye, is that the series name? I think that's the series name. So I like some bits more and some bits less. So like it's probably going to come out around the same rating, but like because of different things. It follows Davy, and she is, well, unsure how she got in this situation, but she is on her 200th whatever life because she basically woke up and was told that she was this hero and that she had to go defeat the Dark Lord. She has tried, and every single time she fails, and she's fed up, and so she decides, if I can't defeat him, I better become him. So she's gonna become the Dark Lord. And yeah, so it is very like tongue-in-cheek. It's not like light though. It's definitely not light. I think this is better paced than Ashes of the Sun. That was actually one of my biggest complaints with that series is, number one, I spent the whole series wanting just some really deep interactions between the two siblings, and we never really got that. And then my other thing was like, I felt like because of the 2 points of view, often the pacing was really strange. Like it would be like really fast, and then all of a sudden you would just like drop, and you kind of drop that interest. And so this is one point of view. It is first person present tense, which is not my favorite, but because it is her and the like kind of the like cheeky way that is written, I don't mind it as much because it is just the one person. I think this actually would work really well on audio. I think focusing on the one character is really good for him because, like, as I said, I really liked Ashes of the Sun, but like I did find myself getting kind of frustrated with the two characters. I just never felt fully invested, and I never got the depth between the two of them that I wanted, and that was a bit of a letdown. And whereas this one, I do like our character a lot. She's just like fed up, like, and I just enjoy that a lot. And I think I also prefer the kind of plot of this over Ashes of the Sun because I really enjoy, like, it is kind of like video game-esque, and like there's so many references, which I'm usually not the biggest fan of, but it really works in this format, in this style, and just like the way that it's told. I really enjoy that. I really enjoy just like, it is kind of silly, and she even acknowledges that. It very much like kind of breaks the fourth wall. Also, the character in here, she reminds me, I can't remember the name of Geyer's friend. Is it Kit? She reminded me of her, but like on steroids. So if you like that character, you might like this. But my big thing is the writing style. So it is very different. I would say Ashes of the Sun is pretty straightforward. Like, yeah, there's a bit of humor. I don't think we have the exact same sense of humor, me and Django Wexler. Like, there has been a couple of times. At first, I was like really worried because I was like, okay, that's funny enough, I guess. But like, it wasn't actually making me even like really smile. I was like, yeah, haha. But then I kind of started to get more into it, and it got a couple of laughs out of me, which was good. But again, there was like a bit of humor in Ashes of the Sun, but not nearly as much. And this is also, vulgar isn't the right word, but I can't think of, like, maybe it is the right word, I don't know. But like, I mean, he never shied away from violence in the other series either, and in here it's also there, but like it's not like gory necessarily. it's very nearly like matter of fact. Maybe that's what I don't know. The writing kind of reminds me a little bit of Along the Razor's Edge. I like it a bit more than that, but because of like, I guess, the humor in there, but very much like it's a bit repetitive. And I find myself, which also the chapters are so long, like I'm on chapter 6. I'm halfway through the book. But I find myself, once I read a chapter, I have to put it down. I usually read a chapter, play a game of Hades, read a chapter, play a game of Hades, because it just gets a bit too much. Like, it's a bit too repetitive. So I have to stop. Hello, so it's actually been a little bit, but I have finally finished How to Become the Dark Lord and Die Trying by Django Wexler. And I'm giving it a 4-star. It's a bit of a lower 4 stars, I would say, out of the 4 books now that I've read from him. I've read the entire Burning Blade and Silver Eye trilogy. This is probably my least favorite, though. Was it the second one of those that I had of the other trilogy I had like a couple of gripes with? I'd say those two are it was definitely very repetitive, and like it definitely does read more man writing woman. It was obviously a stylistic choice for this book. I didn't mind it so much because like I got kind of like the humor and stuff that he was trying to go for, but after a while it did kind of start to grate on you. It's just like, nobody thinks like this. So yeah, so that was my main thing, is like I did, when I was reading this book, I had to take breaks. Like, this is, for me, is not a book that I can binge. Like, no way. The writing style just absolutely not. So it was definitely small chunks, and then I actually ended up switching to the audiobook, which I will say there is footnotes, and there's like nearly like, in my head it's like a walkie-talkie sound effect over the footnotes, so like you can very clearly tell that it's a footnote. But I know some people do not like any sort of like sound effects or anything in their audiobooks, so keep that in mind. I didn't mind it. I liked it. I did enjoy the audiobook overall, and it definitely helped me get through the second half of it. I do think I probably enjoyed that more than the first half, so good decision on my part. Enjoyed kind of like the nods at like a lot of like video games and other fantasy books and stuff like that. I enjoyed all of that, and I did appreciate like the plot and like the kind of like taking fate into your own hands and all of that kind of stuff. And like I liked the character, but as I said, it was just like the repetitive nature did mean that I kind of just had to do it chunks at a time. So, but overall I enjoyed it. It was a good time. Oh, also one other thing is like multiple times it is mentioned in the book that like obviously she's from like our world, but she is like trapped in this other dimension, this video game. She doesn't really know what is happening. She knows that she is from our world, around our time period, but she constantly says throughout the book that she doesn't remember much of it, but then she makes very niche references that it's like, so you very obviously do. And that just got on my nerves because it was just driven home so many times. I don't remember this thing, and then it'd be like, but one of the like 3 things I do remember is this very niche like Star Wars reference. And it's like, okay, but what about the like 5 other references to different movies you made in the past chapter? So like that's like a really nitpicky thing, but it was just, it just kind of annoyed me because I was like, you don't have to say it every single chapter that you can't remember stuff, and then go out of your way to prove that you do remember stuff. So as I said, that's like really insignificant. Probably most people wouldn't even notice it, but I did. But anyway, I did overall enjoy it. 4 stars, not bad, you know. And I will continue. Also, if you are someone who wants like fantasy standalones, you're not interested in like really starting series or anything like that, this can actually be read as a standalone as long as you don't read like literally the last 2 pages. See you whenever I decide to read that book. So I was about to say halfway. I'm not halfway. I'm way past halfway. Not way past. I'm 62% into a novel love story by Ashley Poston, and I'm liking it so far. Again, I feel like it is going to be a 4 star, which I kind of predicted because her other 2 books have been. I'm not the biggest fan of the audiobook, just like the accent. It's not really doing anything for me. That's like my biggest gripe, I would say, with it, which this has like a way lower rating than her other 2 books. I mean, she has more than 2 books, but adult romances. And I don't really see why. Like, I'll be intrigued to read reviews when I'm finished with it because, like, I don't think it's my favorite. is it my least favorite? Like, it might be my least favorite, but like, it's still a 4-star. Dead Romantics, I like the plot and like the premise more. So the Dead Romantics is like, it follows a ghost writer who can see ghosts, and then she returns home because her father has died, and then her snarky editor shows up as a ghost and she falls in love. And then the 7-year slip, a woman is living in her aunt's apartment, and her aunt used to always tell her stories about how it was a magical apartment that could time travel, and then one day she walks through the doors and she is 7 years in the past and there is a stranger in her apartment. And again, love story. And so I like the premise and like the family plot of the Dead Romantics more, but I like the relationship of the 7-year slip more. Whereas this one, I feel like it's actually in between the two. It's like, so like, if we're talking about like plot premise versus like romance, obviously there's more factors at play, but it would go like Dead Romantics is like number 1 premise, number 3 romance, and then like the Dead Romantics, it would be like number 1 romance, number 3 premise, and then this one would be 2-2. But like, I still feel like the 2-2 kind of still somehow it averages out lower, even though they all average to 2. But that's just how my brain works. So like, it's not bad, but like neither of those things are like gripping me as much as they did in the other two, and so it just feels a little. But like, as I said, I'm pretty sure it's gonna be a 4-star. I like it, don't love it. I didn't tell you what this one is about. I told you about the other two. So a novel love story follows a woman. Her book club always meets up in this cabin every year, and this year nobody can come, but she decides to set off by herself. And along the way, a storm starts and she finds herself trapped in a small town, and she realizes that this is the town of her favorite fictional series, and that like she might actually be in a book. Obviously, happily ever afters. If it's a romance, it's a happily ever after. And like, I'm intrigued how that's gonna work because she's falling in love with a fictional character, question mark. So like, I'm intrigued by like how that's all gonna work, but I feel like it's a little too slow for me because, as I said, I'm 62% in. Like, we've gotten like a couple of kisses, I think maybe like 2, but like, I just wanted like, just like few pages earlier, I wanted the like romance to start, because like, I think, as I said, something that like the Dead Romantics, I loved every other aspect of the book, and like, while I liked the romance, I didn't love it, and like, it took a while for me to actually feel chemistry between them. Like, I just like, and like, not everything needs to be like an instant spark or anything, but like, I heard a lot of people being like, oh my god, they have such good chemistry, and I was like, no, I felt like there's a fly in my room. I felt like it took me a while to like understand why they would be interested in each other, which is fine, but like, I think there was supposed to be like instant chemistry attraction. I just didn't feel it. Whereas in this one, like, I did see that instant like sparks between the two of them, but like, the sparks were just like sparking for a while. It took a while for them to, you know, heat up. And I think they would just a little faster. But aside from that, and as I said, I feel like this one isn't as heavy, I suppose, as the other two, because the other two like deal heavily with grief, both of them. Where this one, like, obviously she does have her own stuff going on in her life, and like, she's like been heartbroken and all this kind of stuff, but like, it doesn't feel as heavy as the other two. But I kind of liked the heaviness of the other two, and like, I liked how the grief was handled in both of those. Like, obviously we're only in her point of view, but like, he also seems to be holding back a lot, and she is. And so like, I'm a little worried how that's gonna play out, if it's gonna be like a really, like, if the conflict, like, because I mean, there could be multiple conflicts obviously, but like, is the conflict of the book going to be the fact that like both of them are like holding back information, I guess, about themselves, which, like, in fairness, they have just met, so like, it's fine for them not to share this, but like, when are they gonna like talk through like real emotions, not just like attractions? I feel like that's it. That's my problem, is that like, I feel like it's all been very surface level, which is fine considering they only know each other a couple of days. Like, in real life, they are at a perfectly fine level of like a relationship. But considering it's 62% of the way through the book, I feel like we should be further along. So maybe just like a little pacing issue. Just being like, I feel like we should be further along in the relationship, but also like timing wise, they shouldn't be further along. So I don't know. I have finished A Novel Love Story by Ashton Boston. It's actually been a couple of days. I'm just really bad at vlogging. And I'm giving it a 4-star, which is not surprising considering I gave her other 2 books 4 stars. Obviously, I wanted a 5-star because Battle of on, but it's fine. So, as I said, my opinions didn't really change from the first half to the second half. I very much, like, I don't understand why this is into getting as much love as the other ones. I really like the way she kind of like pokes fun sometimes at the genre, but like not in like a condescending like way, but just very much in a like, yeah, it's typical, it's the stereotype, it's like the most obvious trope ever, and yet we're gonna eat it up. I eat it up. Like, she loves to like point those things out, and I think she's done that maybe not so much in the 7 Years Slip, but in both this and The Dead Romantics, both of those books, she very much talked about it. Like, in The Dead Romantics, such a thing was like about how romance stories always have a happy ending and all of this, and like literally the whole time of the book she was basically saying this book will have a happy ending, and then like people still were annoyed by how it was so predictable, which we're not gonna get. We're not gonna look. So like, I enjoy that. Like, it's like she already knows some of the criticisms that are gonna happen before she releases the book, because the criticisms all romance books have. And in fairness, she got me in this, because she did, right at the end of the book, she said something about, like, one of the characters in the book club said something about the pacing of the book was so off, which was my complaint in the 50% update. Like, very clearly say, really enjoyed this. Like, had such a good time. I love the characters, I love the relationship. The like reveal, it's not a reveal because it's a romance book, but it is actually something that I thought of. I was like, I wonder if this, and then like I let it go, and then when it happened, it's like, oh, I thought about that earlier. So that was interesting. But I think like it's strange because I liked the plot of the book, but the plot of the book isn't necessarily the plot that is on the synopsis, and I also would have liked to have read that book. But like, also, I'm not mad about the plot of this book. I feel like the plot on the synopsis definitely seems like there's going to be more of a plot than just a romance plot, whereas I would say it is mostly focused on the romance, because like on the back it says like, oh, she comes to this town and she starts like trying to fix everyone's happily ever afters, and then like including this strange man, and she realized that their happily ever afters might be intertwined. That's like not really the case. Like, she accidentally fixes something. Like, she doesn't do it on purpose, and it's like, I'm gonna make sure everyone gets a happily ever after. Like, that's not really what happens. And like, I think that would have also been an interesting story, but I'm not mad that it wasn't. It's just I would have liked both of them. I had a really good time though. I mean, it's nice to have some romance authors that you can go to. I have 2. My 2 go-tos are Ashley Poston and Emily Henry, and it's nice. Everyone else though is a bit hit or miss. And also, I guess T. Kingfisher's fantasy romances. Those are the only 3 people I trust. And so, at long last, the world's longest and yet shortest vlog has concluded. So, as I said at the start, this has been going on way too long. I started this in like whenever A Tempest of Tea came out. It is now September. Good job, Rebecca. So yeah, so in this I read 3 books. I read A Tempest of Tea, I gave that a 3 stars. I read How to Become the Dark Lord and Die Trying, I gave that a 4 stars. And I read A Novel Love Story by Ashley Poston, and I gave that a 4 star. I think my favorite out of them was A Novel Love Story. It definitely was. And I overall had a good time with all of them, but none of them were like my most anticipated releases. I still haven't really read them, and so hopefully I'll be doing a part 2 soon-ish, where I will actually tackle the big ones that I'm really excited for. So thank you guys so much for watching. I do really enjoyed it. If you did, subscribe, and I'll see you all in the next one. Bye.